Good morning to all the students. In today's session, we'll be discussing the concepts of security services and the security mechanisms. Right. So yesterday we have started our discussion on security attacks, where we have discussed the attacks, the threats for attacks that threaten the confidentiality, attacks that threaten the integrity, and attacks that threaten the availability. And after this, we have discussed the concepts related to active attacks and passive attacks. Give me some examples of active attacks. Anybody? What are the examples of active attacks?
DOS attack, masquerade attack,
Please be louder.
DOS denial of services attacks, masquerade attacks, repetition.
Okay, masquerade, denial of
Repetition.
service, modification, replaying, all these things come under the active
sir.
attacks. Right. So once we are done with the passive and active attacks, we have gone through the security attacks such as interception, interruption, like that we have discussed, right? So in today's session, we'll be discussing the remaining two topics related to the security, which are the security services and the security mechanisms. What is a security service? Anybody please respond. I have given the definition of this security service. So we may have the security attacks, right? We have seen lot of security attacks, starting from the snooping, traffic analysis, modification, replaying, masquerading, everything we have seen, denial of services. So when we have attacks by an unauthorized user or by a third party or by an attacker, we should give some counter attacks. We should protect our system, or we should protect our information during the transmission. So what are the counter attacks which we are implementing to protect our system or to protect our communication channel from the attackers is considered to be the service. It is considered to be a security service, right? So how we are going to protect our system, or how we are going to protect our communication channel from the attacks that is being happened due to the attackers is considered to be the security services, right? And what are the security mechanisms we have? What do you mean by security mechanism? Right. Yesterday also we have seen a security mechanism is used to detect and recover. Similarly, it is also used to prevent from the attacks. So from the attacker we need to prevent our data, or from the attacker we need to prevent the attacks to our system, or you can detect the attacks and you can take necessary steps to recover from those attacks. So all these detection mechanisms, prevention and recovery mechanisms, we call them as security mechanisms, right? So why I am discussing about these security mechanisms is there is a close relationship between these services and the mechanisms. So the security services and mechanisms are closely related to each other. The relation is that a service can be created, a security service can be created by using a combination of one or more mechanisms. So you can use one or more mechanisms to create a service. So that is the relationship between these security services and mechanisms. And it is not mandatory that a service is always created using one or more mechanisms. The reverse is also true. That means one mechanism can be used to create more than one service, right? So this is all about the security mechanisms and the security services. So the security service is the counter attack which we are implementing to protect our system from the attacks is called as security service. The security mechanisms are the actions that we take to prevent or detect and recover from the attacks that happen. And the relationship between the services, security services and the security mechanisms is one security service can be created by using one or more mechanisms. Similarly, one mechanism can be used to implement more than one service also. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, and who is responsible? The party who is responsible for creating these services, right? So, you and myself cannot create the security services. Nobody will bother or nobody will consider those type of services. So, there should be some authority or there should be a standardization authority which can provide these services or which can develop these services, right? So if you people say that I have developed a security service and this is the security service, nobody is going to consider it. Am I right or not? So what services they are going to provide the security? They should be standardized, right? So they should be given to the standards organization, and the standard organization will be providing those services, right? So the standardization sector that is used to provide these security services and security mechanisms is called as ITUT. ITUT stands for International Telecommunication Union and Telecommunication Standardization Sector. So it is an abbreviation where ITUT stands for the International Telecommunication Union and Telecommunication Standardization Sector. So this particular standardization unit is responsible for providing the security services and security mechanisms, and so this is the responsibility of this ITUT, right? So is it clear who is going to give the security services and who is going to give the security mechanisms? There should be a standardization unit, and that standardization unit we call it as ITUT. Right. And this point we have already discussed, that the security services and the security mechanisms are closely related because a mechanism or a combination of mechanism can be used to provide a service. This is what we have discussed. Similarly, this part also we have discussed that a single mechanism can be used to provide one or more services. Right. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So once we are clear with this security services, this is the introduction part of the security services. So we'll be discussing what type of security services that the ITUT is going to provide. There are only 5 security services that the ITUT is going to provide. The first one is the data confidentiality. It is a service, security service. And the second one is the data integrity. It is also a service. And similarly, authentication is one service, non-repudiation is another service, and access control is another service. So these are the 5 different services. Maybe you might have other services, security services also, but we will be discussing the most important, the key security services that are provided by the ITUT, right? So what are the security services we are going to discuss?
Data confidentiality, integrity, authentication, non-repudiation,
and access control. Right. We have gone through a lot of discussions on this data confidentiality. What do you mean by data confidentiality?
Protecting the data from unauthorized persons, sir.
Super, right. So protecting the data or the protecting our information from disclosure to unauthorized access. That particular term is very important, disclosure. So if you protect our data from disclosure to the unauthorized parties, we call that particular service as the data confidentiality, right? So it ensures that information in a computer system or the transmitted information are accessible only for reading by the authorized parties. So everything, every data that you that is present in the system, or every data that you transfer from one side of the communication channel to the other side of the communication channel, it is intended to be read only by the authorized users. No unauthorized party can access it and can read the contents. Disclosure is nothing but reading. Opening and reading is called as disclosure. Right. So if you are providing such service that the data is only read by the authorized parties, we call it as the data confidentiality service. Right. So this is something like we are protecting the data from disclosure attack. And here we have a document called X.800. In this particular document, what is this X.800? This is a document specified by ITUT. Right. So all the services and mechanisms are documented and they are kept inside, and every document will be given a number like this, X.800. In IEEE also we have different types of documents like that. Here in the security services we have defined this data confidentiality service inside this document, which is called as X.800. Right. So what does this X.800 consists of? Means it consists of the confidentiality of the whole message or a part of message, and also protection against traffic analysis. Right. It consists of various data that is related how to protect our data, whether it can be a full message or whether it can be a part of the message. How we are going to protect this from the disclosure to the non-authorized parties. So that particular data confidentiality data information is incorporated inside this X.800 document. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So what do you mean by integrity, data integrity?
Restricting unauthorized modifications.
Right. So we are going to restrict the document for the unauthorized modifications. Right. No unauthorized party can modify the document. So if we are able to provide a service in such a way that the data that is present in our system or the data that is transferred via the communication channel is not able to modified by the unauthorized party, we say that service as the integrity service. Right. So this particular service ensures that only authorized parties are able to modify the computer system assets and or the transmitted information. Right. Only the authorized parties are able to modify the contents, or they are able to insert the new data, or they are able to delete the new data. So insertion, deletion, modification, everything should be done by the authorized parties only. So if you implement a service in such a way that all these operations such as the insertion, modification and deletions is done only by the authorized users, we say that service as the data integrity service. Right. And coming to the examples, no writing by the unauthorized users, no changing of status by the unauthorized users, no deletion by the unauthorized users, no creation, no delaying or no replaying by the unauthorized users. So all these operations, writing, changing the status, deletion, creation, delaying, replaying, everything is related or everything is done by the authorized parties only. That is called as the integrity service. So it is designed to protect the data from modification, insertion, deletion and replay by the attackers. We are going to protect the data from these type of operations to be done only to be not performed by the attackers. We are protecting our data. That is called as the data integrity. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So these two terms we are very much clear, and we have gone through these two terms in the previous discussions also. But the new term, here is the new term we are coming across here, authentication. Can anybody tell me what do you mean by authentication? Have you ever heard of this term authentication?
Recognizing the user identity, sir.
So it is called the identification of the entity. The identification of entity can be the identification of entity should be done, right? The entity can be anything, right? It can be a person, or it can be a computer, or it can be something like that. Anything you take, it is considered as an entity, right? As a simple example and as a real time example, we can say that when you are going to write a examination, when you are going to give an examination, for example, consider the MCA first semester examinations are going on, and assume that Rajesh has attended the exam, and the invigilator comes and checks whether the person sitting there at that particular position is the exact, or he is the actual Rajesh or not. How he is going to identify? How the invigilator is going to identify whether he is Rajesh or not?
By checking the hall tickets or roll number.
Super, right? By checking the hall ticket, right? So hall ticket is not only the criteria to check the identity. For example, he may bring the hall ticket, and there is another way to identify the identity of that person also, right? They can have the college ID card, or they can bring their Aadhaar card also. Like that, there are number of ways by which you can check whether the person is the correct person or not, or whether the computer is the correct computer that is going to access or not, right? So entity can be anything like a person, a computer, or a server, anything you can take, right? So authentication is nothing but to identify whether that particular entity is correct or not, right? Right. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So even you have the authentication services that are provided for your Gmail accounts also. So when you are trying to access your Gmail account, how can the system, or how can the Gmail server authenticate you as a correct person or not? So when you want to log into your Gmail account, so how the Gmail account is going to, or how the Gmail server is going to authenticate you? By what means it is going to authenticate you?
Login details.
Super. It is by using the login ID and password. It's not only the login ID, it should be accompanied with the password also. So once the user gives the correct login information and the password, then the Gmail server will identify that you are the correct person. So the login IDs and passwords are also treated as the parameters for authentication. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this
Yes, sir.
authentication service ensures that the origin of a message or the electronic document is correctly identified with an assurance that the identity is not false. So the correct identification is considered to be authentication. That's it. Whether you are going to identify a person, or whether you are going to identify a server or a system, anything, it should be, if you are going to identify whether it is the correct entity or not, we call it as the authentication service, right? So if you consider the connected communications, right? Connected communication means there are two parties and they are physically connected by the wires, like we do in the laboratories, right? So every system in the laboratory is connected to each other through wires. That is called as connected communication. So in connected communication, when the sender wants to send some information to the receiver, before the connection establishment itself, so you have everything in this computer network subject. So how the connection is established between the sender and the receiver, what type of messages they are going to exchange to create a connection. All these things you will be discussing in the computer network subject. It is not our scope, right? So in the connected communication, where the sender and receiver are connected with a direct wire, physical wires, in such case, before transmitting the message from the sender to the receiver, everybody, the connection establishment, the authentication of the sender and the authentication of the receiver will be done before the connection establishment itself, right? So that is the topic related to this connected communication. And the second one is if it is a connectionless communication. So nowadays we have everything connectionless only. No physical wires are there. For example, if you take a mobile phone, it is a connectionless. Right. So it is a wireless communication. Right. So in case of wireless communication, the authentication for the source of data is only provided. There are different mechanisms, but just remember that authentication is to be considered as a security service, and it is going to provide the mechanisms, it is going to provide the measures to identify whether an entity is correct or not. Right. And the next one is non-repudiation. We have gone through this particular concept. What do you mean by repudiation? Yesterday we have discussion on this. What do you mean by repudiation? Rejection,
Denying.
right? Or denying. So once the message has been communicated from the sender to the receiver, neither the sender nor the receiver has to deny that the transmission is not responsible for them. Right. So that is called as repudiation. If the sender rejects, or if the sender denies that the communication is not initiated by him, that is called as repudiation by the sender. Or if the receiver denies that they have not received any information, that is called as repudiation by the receiver. So this should not happen in the communications. Right. This should not happen in the communications. And as I told that this repudiation is an attack that is not done by the third party. The attacker is not responsible for this repudiation. So who is responsible for this attack, the repudiation attack? The sender and the receiver who are involved in the actual communication are responsible. So they simply say that I didn't send any message, or the receiver will simply say that I didn't receive any message. So this should not happen. So in order to avoid such type of attacks, we are going to have one security service which is called as non-repudiation. We know what repudiation is. It is rejection. And what non-repudiation means? Non-rejection. Right. So it requires that neither the sender nor the receiver of the message be able to deny the transmission. Nobody is able to say, neither the sender nor the receiver, they are not going to say that the transmission is not initiated by them. They have to accept. So if you are providing such type of service, security service, we call it as the non-repudiation service. Is it clear? And we have two types here. Proof of origin. Origin means where the message is going to be created. That is called as origin place, birthplace. Proof of origin means we are going to provide the identity for the sender who is going to send the message. Right. So what happens if you provide the proof of origin? So I have the receiver is having the identity for the of the sender. So the receiver of data can prove the identity of the sender if he denies. Right. For example, myself, Chandu and Rajesh, I have sent a message to Rajesh, and later I denied that I didn't send any message to Rajesh. Right. This can happen. That is called as repudiation. But in addition to this message, we will also send some extra information to the receiver which gives the identity of the sender. So I give my identity to the receiver. So what receiver can, if I say that I didn't send any message to Rajesh, then Rajesh can simply show that particular proof of origin, saying that I have the proof that Chandu sir has sent me a message. So that is how it works with the proof of origin. Now there is also another thing, proof of delivery. Right. So I have sent a message, Chandu has sent a message to Rajesh, and after completion of the transmission of message, Rajesh simply denies that I didn't receive any message. So in order to avoid this, what Rajesh has to do is, what Chandu has to do is, he has to get the acknowledgement of the reception. Right. Once the acknowledgement is there from Rajesh, even though Rajesh denies that the communication is not received at his end, the Chandu can simply show the proof of delivery, that is the acknowledgement. he can show the acknowledgement, and he can simply say that the message has been received by the receiver. That is called as proof of delivery. That means the sender of data can prove that data was delivered to the intended recipient. Right. So you might have gone through the different services that are available in post office, right? You might have heard of this registered post. Have you posted any document with registered post? Anybody?
No, sir.
Yes, right. So the registered post is something which gives the proof of origin and the proof of delivery. So while you are sending a document, for example, I am applying I am putting my application to TCS for job requirement. So I send all my required documents to the TCS through a registered post. So the sender, that means myself, my address is given on the registered post. So that acts as the proof of origin. So that says that Chandrasekhar is the originator for this particular message or the registered post, right? So once the documents has been received at the TCS office, there will be an acknowledgement to the Chandrasekhar, right? So after the documents are received by the TCS, they will simply sign it, and that message you will get it from the post office saying that the document has been delivered to the TCS office at so and so date and at so and so time. So that acts as a proof of delivery. So the registered post is an example of security service where we are providing the non-repudiation service. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. And the last service is the access control service. What do you understand by this term, access control? What do you understand by this term, access control? The name itself is there. Everything is there in the name.
Giving access to an unauthorized person, sir, of an organization data, for an organization data.
No. We should not give access to the unauthorized persons, right? Actually, the authorized persons also should be controlled for accessing specific type of documents, right? For example, if you take a hospital data and you take a compounder and there is a hospital patient data is there, right? Can we provide access for this patient data to the compounder?
No, sir.
No, it is not required. Why? Because compounder is nowhere related to the patient's data, right? Can we give access to the doctor?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And can we give the modification rights of the patient data to the compounder?
No, sir.
Let us take another entity, nurse. So the compounder is not having the read access and write access. Am I right or not? The compounder is no way concerned with the patient data. Therefore, there is no need to give the write access and the read access to the compounder. Now coming to the nurse. Do the nurse have the rights to read the data, patient's data?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Right. Nurse is having the reading access. And do the nurse has the capability to write or to modify the patient's data?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, right. What happens to the doctor? Does he have the read access to patient's data?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Does he have the write access to patient data?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So this is how all these compounder, doctor and nurse are the authorized people only. They are authenticated. Right. So there is a difference between this authentication and authorization. I will tell you in the next slide. Right. So there are two terms. One is the authentication and second one is authorization. we'll see what this authentication and authorization is, right? So even though the compounder, doctor and nurse are the authorized people or the authenticated people to access this patient data, but we are going to control the access rights, right? Compounder, we won't give any read or write access, but nurse, she is able to take the read access, but we should not provide the right access to the nurse. But as a doctor, he should have the read and write permissions to the patient's data. So this is how we are going to control the access for a particular resource or for a particular document or for a particular information, anything, right? So this is called as access control. We are going to control who is going to access what data. That is called as access control. This is another security service that is going to be provided, right? Is it not the security or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Security
So the
service.
access control also comes under the security service only. Why? Because we have a very confidential data, patient's data, and that data we are protecting from the compounder by not giving him the read and write access, and we are protecting that patient data by giving only read permissions to the nurse, whereas the write permissions are denied. But for the doctor, we are giving both the permissions. So that is called as controlling the access. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it requires that access of information resources may be controlled by or the target system. So we are going to control who is going to access and what data he is going to access. That is called as access control. And the next one is access can involve reading, writing, modifying, executing program and so on. Anything you can take, right? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that is all about the security services. We have these 5 different security services. One is the data confidentiality, the second one is the data integrity, third one is the authentication, fourth one is non-repudiation, and the fifth one is the access control. It is one of the important question from the theoretical point of view, examination point of view, right? And next we are going to discuss another topic which is called as security mechanisms, right? I gave you some idea on the security mechanism. What do you mean by security mechanism?
Preventing, detecting, and recovering the disaster.
So by using this mechanism, super, we are going to detect, we are going to recover, we are going to prevent the attacks from the attackers. And what is the relationship between these mechanisms and services?
Services are the combinations of mechanisms, one or more combinations.
Super, wonderful. So services are a combination of one or more mechanisms. Similarly, one mechanism can be used to provide one or more services, right? So we'll see a lot of mechanisms here again, right? See here, what is the first mechanism we have? Encryption or encipherment. Encryption or encipherment, both are same only. We know what encryption is. What do you mean by encryption?
Conversion of plain text to ciphertext. Sir.
Right, super, right. We are going to convert the plain text into ciphertext which is not understandable by the attacker, right? So that is called as encryption. So encryption is a fundamental to the information security, and encryption transforms the plain text or the original data into something that an attacker cannot understand, right? In other words, what is that it is going to provide? What service it is going to provide? We are not allowing the attacker to view the contents. That means we are not allowing the attacker to see our contents. That means we are not disclosing our contents. What is that disclosure? Confidentiality, right? So this particular encryption or encipherment is used to provide the confidentiality service, right? So there are 2 types of encipherment, which is the cryptography and steganography. Cryptography is something which is having both this encryption and decryption, whereas this steganography is hiding a message within another message or image. That is called as steganography, right? So we don't have the concept of steganography. We just remember that steganography is a mechanism, security mechanism, where you are going to hide the confidential information within a message or within an image. Maximum will make use of images only, right? So that is all about the encryption. So in addition, encryption allows us to check whether the data has been modified or not. So it is going to provide the integrity check also. So what this encryption is going to provide, what services it is going to provide? What services it is going to provide? We are not allowing the third party to see our contents, which is called as confidentiality, right? Similarly, we are not allowing, we can simply check whether the data has been modified or not. This is called as integrity check, right? So the two services that this mechanism is going to provide is the confidentiality and the integrity. As I told that one mechanism can be used to provide more than one service also. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
And the second mechanism which we are going to discuss is the authentication. Authentication is nothing but we are going to identify whether the client is the correct client or not, whether the entity is the correct or not, right? So authentication is used to verify the claimed identity of a user, client or server, anything, system or anything, right? So whether the user, he claims that I am the correct user for this particular system. So how can you identify it? By making use of usernames and passwords, right? And similarly, users are authenticated by means of passwords. As I told that the users can be authenticated by means of passwords, right? So what do you mean by authorization? This is important. What do you mean by authorization? See here, this is very important. For example, you take a classroom, you take your first MCA classroom, okay? Authentication means when a person comes and he wants to sit in the classroom, I will check his identity card, and if he belongs to first MCA class, then I will allow him to sit inside the classroom. That is called as authentication, right? Once the person is authenticated, right, I should say that that student is not having access to the projector, right? The projector cannot be used by the student. Or for example, you assume that there are some equipment, or there is a server in the lab. That server cannot be used by the students. They cannot operate the students. So I am restricting the usage of the server from the students. Only the HOD, only the staff and the operators can make use of the server service, right? That is called as authorization. Authorization, do you understood what this authorization is? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Understood, sir.
So authorization means once the client has been authenticated, that means we have identified that he is the correct client. It is necessary to check whether that client is authorized to perform the action or not, right? Whether the student is able to access the server or not. That is called as authorization. For example, if the student is not able to access the server, we are not giving any permissions to access the server. So we can say that the student is not authorized to access the service. The student is not authorized to access the server. This is what we have to say, right? It is something like examples we can give like this. So access to records in a medical database. In the previous example, we have given an example, right? Patient's data is there. What are the if you take compounder, Is he authorized to read and write the patient's data?
No, sir.
No. If you take nurse, is she authorized to read the contents of the patient data?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is nurse authorized? It's not authenticated. Is nurse authorized to write the contents into patient data?
No, sir.
No, right. What about the doctor? Doctor is authorized to perform both the read and write operations. So this is something related to access. Right. So access to medical records, depending on who accesses the database, permission may be granted to read records, to modify certain fields in the record, or add or remove the records. Right. So the next mechanism which we are going to discuss is auditing. Can anybody tell me what do you mean by auditing? Right. So the other name for the auditing, we can give it as log. So when you enter the lab, you will be provided a book. What is that book called as? Right. So when you are trying to do practicals in the laboratory, first of all you have to sign your information, or you have to give your information in a book called as log book. Am I right or not?
Sir.
Right. So why do we use this log book? This does not provide any security against the security threats. Right. It does not provide any security against the security attacks. But once an attack has happened, we can thoroughly go through this logbook and we can identify whether a security breach has been happened or not. So who is responsible? For example, assume that system 10 has been accessed by Vikram. Vikram has done lot of programs in system 10. After some time, assume that system 10 has been corrupted. The OS has been completely corrupted. So I can open the logbook and I can check who has accessed this system 10. So I check that Vikram has accessed. Therefore, I make this Vikram as a culprit. Right? I will put some fine for this Vikram. Right? So the logbooks are used to trace the clients who accessed what records, at what time they have accessed. So what operation they have performed, whether they have done any read operation or write operation. That is given by auditing tools. Right. So the auditing tools are used to trace which clients accessed what and in which way they have accessed. Right. So as I told that these auditing tools never help us in protecting against the security attacks. But these audit logs are extremely useful in the analysis of a security breach. This is the case where assume that system 10 has been corrupted and I take the logbook and I check who has accessed this system 10. So I make Vikram as the culprit and I will put a fine on him. So that is used. So the auditing logs are useful for performing the analysis of a security breach. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So how many mechanisms we have read in this particular page?
4 mechanisms.
What are they?
Encryption, authentication, authorization, and auditing, sir.
Right. Encryption, authentication, authorization, and auditing. And we have these many mechanisms, other mechanisms, right? So digital signature. Have you ever heard of digital signature? Have you ever heard of signature at least? What is a signature? What does it identify?
Particular person.
So signature specifies that the particular data is given by that particular person only, right? For example, if you are applying for a bona fide certificate, you will write a letter to the vice principal or the principal or the concerned authority, and at the end you will put your signature. So by looking at the signature, we can identify that, oh, this particular request has been requested by Vikram or so and so person, right? So the signature helps us in identifying the sender or the receiver, right? It is used for authentication, or it is used for identification, which is nothing but authentication, right? Similarly, we have digital signatures. Nowadays there are a lot of digital signatures. Why? Because people are saying that please don't use paper for all the things. So everything became digital, everything became E. What does E stand for? Email, e-commerce. What does E stand for?
Electronics.
Electronic, right? So everything became electronic. So we are not going to send any more documents on paper. Hard copies we are not going to send. We are just going to send the digital copies or the soft copies. When you are going to send the soft copies, there is nothing, there is no way to sign, put your signature on it, right? So what they have done is they have implemented a concept called as digital signatures, where you can electronically make a signature on the document which you are sending, right? So that is called as a digital signature. So signatures that are done on the digital documents or the content are called as the digital signatures. What is the purpose of this digital signature?
Authentication, sir. Identity verification.
Authentication or identification. Super, super. Right. So coming to this discussion, the appended data are a cryptographic transformation applied to any data unit, allowing to prove the source and the integrity of data unit and protect against forgery, is called as the digital signature. So it is nothing but an extra information that we are giving along with the digital data or digital document in order to identify or in order to make the authentication, and it is also used to check the integrity also. So at the end or at the receiver end, you can simply verify this digital signature and you can check whether any data has been modified during the transmission or not. So unauthorized modification, if not allowed, what is that service called as? No modifications allowed by the unauthorized users. What is the service?
Non-repudiation.
Integrity, right? If the unauthorized user is not allowed to modify the document, we call it as the integrity. So here in the digital signatures, what the sender can do is he can electronically sign the data and the receiver can electronically verify the signature. That's it. That's all about the digital signature, right? And the next term or the next mechanism we have is the authentication exchange. What do you understand by this authentication exchange? We know what authentication is. We know what exchange is. Now you combine these two terms and tell me what is authentication exchange.
Interchanging the identities.
Right. So they are going, the two parties which are involved in the communication, they are going to exchange their identities before the communication happens, right? So that is called as authentication exchange. This is used to provide the authentication. So it is a mechanism that is intended to ensure that the identity of an entity by means of information exchange. So the two entities exchange some messages to provide their identity to each other. So when I want to send, when Chandrasekhar wants to send a message to Rajesh, first of all we will simply exchange the identities before the actual message is transmitted. Why? Because the message is confidential. So I should know whether the other party is Rajesh or not. So what I will do? I will simply send my identity. I am Chandrasekhar, so and so, like that. Then Rajesh has to send his identity. I am Rajesh studying MCA. Like that, if you exchange the identities, that helps in identifying the correct parties for the data transmission, right? So that is called as authentication exchange. Now coming to traffic padding. What do you understand by traffic padding? We have a passive attack called as traffic analysis. Yesterday we have a deep discussion on this traffic analysis. So what do you mean by traffic analysis? Anybody? What do you mean by traffic analysis?
Analyzing traffic between the sender and the receiver.
Right. Analyzing the traffic between the sender and the receiver. So we have the encipherment mechanism where we are converting the actual plain text into the ciphertext. Thereby we are not allowing the attacker to know the contents, but the attacker can simply identify the traffic that is going on between the sender and the receiver, and he can analyze what type of communication is going on between the sender and the receiver, and he can identify what length of messages, how frequent they are sending. So by identifying the type of communication, he can also get some extra information, such as the email of the sender and the receiver, like that, right? So the traffic analysis is a passive attack, which we have discussed earlier, right? So in order to confuse the attacker such that he cannot perform the traffic analysis also, we are using the traffic padding. So padding is nothing but insertion of some bogus information or bogus bits into the gaps, right? So for example, if the sender is sending messages, one is of packet size this one, another is of packet size this one, another is of this one, and another is of this one, right? So we are transferring different packet sizes, but in traffic padding what we will do is, since it is not meeting the exact size of the packet, we will dump the extra bits into this packet. So similarly we will dump extra bits into this packet. So all the packets that are being transferred from the sender to the receiver will be of same size. So this confuses the attacker, and the insertion, so this is all about the traffic padding, the insertion of bits into the gaps into a data stream so as to frustrate the traffic analysis attempts by the attacker is called as traffic padding. Is it right or not? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So the next mechanism is the routing control. What do you understand by routing control? It's a direct term which says that we are going to control the routing mechanism. What do you mean by routing? For example, there is a sender here and there is a receiver here. Is there exactly one route between this sender and receiver?
No, sir.
No, right? There can be many routes like this. There can be many routes like this. So routing is a mechanism, or routing is a technique which is used to transfer the packets from the sender to the receiver. We have lot of routing algorithms based upon the network you are using. If it is a wired network, you will use one particular routing mechanism. If it is a wireless network, we will use lot of routing algorithms are there, right? So the routing is the path that is taken from the sender to the receiver, that is called as route. So for example, how many routes are there between this in this example, how many routes are there between the sender and the receiver?
4.
5, sir.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4
5,
and 5,
sir.
right? And assume that this particular route is more secured and this is second most secured, right? And the remaining routes are not secured. So which is better? Which route is better to send a message from the sender to the receiver?
First one, sir.
So this route and this route are very important, right? These are useful and these are most secured routes to send a message from the sender and the receiver. So if you are available with more number of routes, some routes are secured and some routes are not secured. So how we are going to send our message from the sender to the receiver, whether you are going to send it from the secured channel or whether you are going to use the unsecured channel, that depends on the control of the routing. That is called as routing control. So it enables the selection of particular physically secure routes for certain data and allows routing changes once a breach of security is suspected. Right. So assume that the path 1 has been selected. This route has been selected to send a message from sender to the receiver. But assume that this is also tapped by an attacker. So once a security breach has happened, the routing control mechanism, what it will do is it will automatically identify another route to send the confidential data from the sender to the receiver. So the second route is automatically selected. So that is called as the routing control. So it helps in preventing the eavesdropping on a specific route. What do you mean by eavesdropping? Yesterday I have told. What do you mean by eavesdropping? It is nothing but a attack. It is also considered as an attack, where the attacker will just listen what is happening during the communication. Right? He will just tap the wire between the sender and the receiver, and he just listens each and every message that is transferred between the sender and the receiver. That is called as eavesdropping. Right? And coming to the notarization, another mechanism is notarization. Have you ever heard of the term called as notary? Notary. Have you ever heard of the term notary? Right. So notary is being done by the advocates. So even when you join a particular company, a software company, the advocates or the TCS people or the company people, they are asking you to provide the notary documents. It is nothing but a third party which assures some properties on behalf of you. That is called as the notary. Right. So here in this case, in the data transmission, here we are using a third party to assure certain properties of the data. So when we use a third party to assure or to certify some properties of the data, we are calling it as the notarization. Right. So this particular notarization mechanism is used to prevent the repudiation. As we told that the repudiation is nothing but the rejection or denying. Right. So once you notarize, once you use a third party to assure some of the properties or to certify some of the properties of our data, we are able to prevent the repudiation. Right. And the last mechanism we have is the security mechanism, is the access control, which we have discussed in the earlier slide also. Right. Access control is nothing but controlling the access rights. So which user is going to have which rights, similar to that of the patient's data example which we have taken. The compounder is having no access rights. He is not having the read or write rights for the patient data. While you consider the nurse, that particular user is having the read permission, but she is not having the write access. But the doctor is having both the read and write access. So who is going to control, who is going to access what data? All these things are called as access control. So the access control are nothing but the methods to ensure that a user has access right to the data or resources. So how you are going to control access rights? By making use of passwords or PIN. PIN stands for personal identification number. Right. So this is the last slide for this particular session, which gives the relationship between the security services and the security mechanisms. Right. So we have 5 different services. One is the data confidentiality, the second one is the data integrity, third one is authentication, fourth is non-repudiation, and fifth one is access control. So what mechanisms are used to implement this data confidentiality security service is, we can make use of the encipherment and we can make use of the routing control also. So while you choose a secret route or while you choose a secured route, you can protect your data from disclosure to the unauthorized parties. So routing control is also used to provide the data confidentiality service. Similarly, the data integrity service can be provided by the encipherment, that is by using the encryption, and they can be used for digital, they can be used by digital signatures and the data integrity also. Similarly, the authentication services can be provided by encipherment mechanism, the digital signature mechanism, and authentication exchange mechanism. And the next service, which is called as non-repudiation, can be provided either by the digital signature, as we have discussed with an example that when you sign a digital document with a digital signature, you cannot deny it. The sender cannot deny it or the receiver cannot deny it. So digital signatures helps in non-repudiation. Similarly, they also help in data integrity. So they can check whether the data has been received correctly, what actual data has been sent by the sender, that should be received by the receiver. So the the data integrity also helps in non-repudiation service. And the notarization, this also I have told, by making use of the third party users, we are going to check or we are going to certify some of the properties of the data. So this notarization also helps in non-repudiation. So the sender or the receiver cannot deny that they have not received it. Why? Because the notarization has been done by the third party. And the last security service, which is called as access control, will be provided by a mechanism called as access control mechanism, which we have studied in the previous slide. So these services, these 5 services are going to be provided by different mechanisms. So this is all about the relation between the security services and the security mechanisms. Right. I think it is very much clear about the security services and security mechanisms. So this is end of our today's session, and thank you one and all. And in tomorrow's session or in the next session, we are going to discuss the mathematics part that is related to the cryptography. We are going to see integer arithmetic, we are going to see modular arithmetic, and matrices, groups, everything we are going to see in the coming sessions. So that's all for today's session. Thank you one and all.